Yes, a very good morning to all of you. Right, so I think this the video the screen has got stuck, so let me just put it back again. Okay, just a minute. Okay, so if I stop the streaming and start it again, let me work. Oh, I'd already started the stream, but yeah, technical glitch. Right. So very good morning. There was some technical glitch. That is why I had to, connect the iPad again. Okay. Right. So wonderful. Yesterday we completed with our discussion regarding the SA 700 series and also the CARO 2020. We also had a quick look at SA 299, wherein we talked about the JAP, the Joint Audit Plan, then the JAS, that is jointly and severally responsible, and then the Joint Audit Reporting. But then after that, we came to two chapters. One was the chapter number 2, which was regarding the audit strategy, audit planning, and the audit program. Right? I hope that you have also done the revision of this particular chapter at your end regarding the audit strategy, audit planning, and the audit program. And then after that, we also did the quick revision of the chapter number 6, which is regarding the audit documentation, right? Which is regarding the audit documentation. And then we started with our discussion on the chapter number 4, which is regarding the audit evidence. And in audit evidence, we discussed SA 500. We did a brief revision of the 501, right? So our agenda for today is that we are going to complete with our discussion on the 500 series over there, and then after that proceed to the items of the financial statements, that is chapter number 5, and chapter number 9, which is the audit of the different types of the entities. Right? So that is going to be our agenda for discussion today. Okay, right. So I hope that you have revised whatever we've covered so far, and you have some questions ready for me, any particular topic, because today is the last day of our revision series, right? So if there is any particular topic, any particular question that you want me to cover, please put it on the chat box, right? So that I can include, try to incorporate it in our discussion today. Okay. Right. So as we were yesterday talking about the 500 series, let us quickly once again revise the 500 series. 500 audit evidence, 501 audit evidence specific consideration for gine chune selected items, 505 external confirmations, 510 initial audit engagements opening balances, 520 analytical procedures, 530 audit sampling, 540 auditing of accounting estimates, but not applicable for CA Inter exams. And then we have the 50, 60, 70, and the 80, which we also call it as the RSGW. That is related parties, subsequent events, going concern, and the written representation. Right, and the written representations. Okay, so we've already done the discussion of the SA 500 501. Now let's come to the discussion of the SA 505. Right, so everybody, are you with me? Right, is everybody with me? Let's begin with our discussion for the SA 505. Again, we can mark the standard as a 5-star. CA Inter, CA Final. At both levels, the questions are asked a lot regarding the SA 505, which is regarding the external confirmations, right? External, third party. Like direct written response to the auditor from a third party. Right. So here one, we have the definition of the external confirmations. Then for the auditor to obtain the external confirmation, first auditor, he needs to send the confirmation request to the confirming party. Right? And this confirmation request could be a positive confirmation request or it could be a negative confirmation request. Positive confirmation request, whether the confirming party agrees or whether the confirming party disagrees with the information provided in the request. In both cases, it needs to reply. Whereas negative confirmation request, only when the confirming party disagrees with the information given in the request, only in that case it needs to reply. Right, so we have positive confirmation request and the negative confirmation request. Okay. If the confirming party fails to reply to a positive confirmation request, then that is called as a non-response. Right? It is called as a non-response and it replies, but there is some particular difference that you told them to confirm 10,000 and they confirmed only 8,000. So then that is called as an exception. Right? Then that is called as an exception. Right? So basically we have the 5 definitions over here: external confirmation request, negative confirmation request, non-response, and the exception. Right? Non-response and the exception. Right. Now, negative confirmation request is when the third party needs to reply only if they disagree. Right. So, what are the situations? Because negative confirmations provide the less persuasive audit evidence as compared to the positive confirmation request. Right. So what are the situations where as an auditor, you would say that, even less persuasive evidence will be okay. Right. So one, we say where the inherent risk and the control risk is low. Right. When there are large number of small balances, when the error rate is low and the auditor has no reason to believe that the respondent will disregard the request. Right, so that's another important question. Situations where negative confirmations may be used. Right, situations where negative confirmations may be used when the risk is low, when the balances are low, when the error rate is low, and auditor has no reason to believe that the respondent will disregard the request. Okay. Right. Then after the confirmations, we have the situations where external confirmations may be used. Okay, what all can you get confirmed from a third party? Is it that only you can get a balance confirmed? Not necessary. You can also get the transactions confirmed. You can also get the terms and conditions of an agreement confirmed. You can also get the absence of a side agreement confirmed through external confirmation. Right? So this is all what you can get confirmed through the external confirmations. And then if we take the example of balance sheet, right, say it says the property title deed held by third party, right, investments purchased but delivery not taken, right, inventory held by the third party, right, the bank balance and the other information from the bankers, accounts receivable, then obviously you have the accounts payable. Right? Then after that, the loan from lenders, right? Then the share application, outstanding share application money. Right? So that's question over there. Important ATF, all-time favorite of the ICAI. Situations where external confirmations may be used. So एक हमने क्या discuss किया? Situations where negative confirmations may be used. है ना? Where you can, the third party needs to reply only if. And another question is situations where external confirmations may be used. Right? Situations where external confirmations may be used. Right? So that's again a 5-star question over there. Right. Then after that, we have the EC process. What is EC process? The external confirmation process. Right. So what are the steps involved in getting the external confirmation? Right. So step number 1, you have to select the items for the confirmation. Then for the selected items, you need to design the confirmation request. Then once you design the confirmation request, you have to communicate it to the appropriate third party. Then after communicating, you have to obtain the response. And then after that, you have to evaluate the information or the lack thereof, that whether relevant, reliable audit evidence has been obtained or not. right? So that is external confirmation process. What are the steps involved in the external confirmation process? Like company has 10,000 debtors. I don't want confirmation from all 10,000 debtors. So I select the sample. For the sample selected, I design the request. I communicate to the third party, obtain the response, and evaluate the information or the lack thereof. Right. And one important question which comes from 505 is like auditor wants to send confirmation request to debtor A, debtor B, but management says no. Auditor, please, please, please don't send confirmation request to these two particular debtors. Right. So that is the situation where we are talking about the management's refusal to allow the auditor to send a confirmation request, right? Management's refusal to auditor to send a confirmation request. So again, number one, what you will do, you will ask the reasons to the management. Management, what happened? Why you're not allowing us to send the request? Right? Then you will consider the implications of the management's refusal on the auditor's assessment of RMM, including the risk of fraud and the nature, timing, and extent of the audit procedures. Okay, auditor ego hurt. Okay, management is not allowing him to check few points. Right? So you check the implications कि क्या वो डेटर में कुछ रिस्क है, क्या वो डेटर में कुछ फ्रॉड है, क्या आपने अदर ऑडिट प्रोसीजर भी चेंज करना चाहिए. Then you say might be some reason, so you pull down and then decide to perform the alternative audit procedures to obtain the sufficient appropriate audit evidence. But even after performing the alternative procedure, what is unable to obtain sufficient appropriate audit evidence. What we can technically call this also as it is the limitation on scope. Limitation on scope, one, you have to communicate to TCWG SA 260 and ultimately modify your opinion as per SA 705. Modifications to the opinion. It can lead to qualified or disclaimer of opinion. Right? It can lead to qualified or disclaimer of opinion. Right? So that is our discussion regarding the SA 505. Right? You won't believe, but it's like just around 10 minutes since we have started the class and we have done a quick revision of the entire important content of the SA 505. Right, so even if you want to revise this particular 505, right, you just see this part of the video and you're done with your revision for the 505. Right, so 5 important definitions over there, 2 situations. Situations where negative confirmations may be used, situations where external confirmations may be used. Then the external confirmation process, and then management refusal to allow the auditor to send the confirmation request. Right, the management's refusal to allow the auditor to send a confirmation request. I don't know for themselves, they can do the assessment, okay, how much in the water they are or how much is the level of their preparation. They can assess, but please check for yourself that every day, minimum, are you doing 1 page of the writing practice? Never mind if you are not able to cover the entire syllabus. You should, but if you are not able to, maybe it is okay. It's not fine, but maybe it's okay. But whatever you have studied, if you don't have the writing skills for that, if you're trying to avoid writing, if you're trying to, just find out some lame excuses, okay, it's okay, I'll write an exam, it's okay, I'm going to write 1 test series, it's okay, I'm reading it so many times, you are, inviting trouble. It is something that you don't like, but nobody has asked you over here whether you like it or no. It is like, it is the, question of survival. It is the need of the hour. If you don't work on these skills, you go to the exam hall, that will be considered to be your writing practice, and then they will invite you again to write the exams after a few months. So we don't want that to happen. Ensure that whichever notebook in which you are studying audit, whatever notes you have made, at least 20-30 answers from different chapters have been written in a manner as if you are writing them in the exam. I hope I'm loud and clear. Okay, and you are not able to decide. You say, ma'am, I'm in a confusion. My mind is creating too much of objection to this thought. You have blind faith in me. I'll not cause any harm to you, that's for sure. Right? So you just find, okay, anyways, I'm not asking you anything. It's just that Aarti ma'am has told me that I need to write minimum 20, 30 pages, minimum 20, 30 answers. So I'm just going to do that. Right? So you tell your mind, I'll listen to you on the day of result. Right now, nothing doing. Right? Pick up one MTP, solve an entire MTP, look into the MCQ. Putting the effort is good, but even putting the right effort is more important. Right? So don't do what is convenient, do what is essential. You've already studied audit report 7 times. Don't study it the 8th time. You've not studied bank audit so far. Cover that. You understand, right? So challenge your strategy. Keep it very innovative. Keep it, outside your comfort zone, right? Outside your comfort zone. Because you might have seen, if you've written a few attempts before regarding audit, you know what a result is coming. So obviously, if this input, if this is the output, certainly there has to be some change in the input. You follow what I say? You follow? Right? You have to get convinced. You say, ma'am, you're not giving us an option. But yeah, because I know that could lead to a pitfall. Right? So it doesn't matter. Some students, they say, ma'am, we are comfortable with Hindi, English. You understand the essence of what I'm trying to tell. अगर CA कर रहे हो तो इतना English तो समझ ही जाए. समझता है ना जो like who prefer to a faculty speaking in Hindi also, right? I think this will rather give you the confidence for your English language also. Right. Nevertheless, I've tried my best to convince you to work in the right direction, to have an eye opener today rather than having an eye opener on the day of result. Right? Put in, if you're studying for 10 hours, increase it to 13 hours. If you're taking, some amount of effort, increase that amount of effort. Like, don't make it luxurious. Don't make it very convenient for you to study. It should be challenging. Right? There has to be a lot of sincerity because, everything else, one more attempt will come, result will come, everything will happen later. But the time will never come again. This Jan 25 attempt will never come again. Will a May 25 come? Will a September 25 come? Will a Jan 26 come? Any number of attempts you want will come. But this Jan 25, this time that you have before Jan 25, that will not come. Right? So I hope that you are able to follow what I'm talking about. Okay. Right. So anyways, we've talked about 505. Then essay 510. At least we should be knowing the title of this essay. What is the title of 510? Initial audit engagement, the opening balances, right? 1st April 2023, opening balances. Why opening balances? Because say 2024, previous year 2023. This year audited by PwC, previous year also audited by PwC. This is an instance of a recurring audit engagement. But 24 audited by PwC, but up to 23, no audit was conducted, or the audit was conducted by KPMG. Then these two are instances of the initial audit engagement, where either the last year was not audited or it was audited, but not by you. It was audited by a predecessor auditor. Predecessor auditor. So now when I'm doing 31st March 24, 1st April 23, opening balances hoga. And when I'm doing audit for 31st March 24, 1st April 23, there will be the opening balances. In a recurring audit, these opening balances last year have been audited by me only. In a recurring audit, ये जो this year के audit के जो opening balances are coming, last year they have been audited by me only. But in case of an initial audit, now these opening balances are not audited by anyone because up to last year no audit was conducted, or they were audited by a predecessor auditor. The KPMG has audited them, not you. So So now in this year, in 24 ka audit, what you have to do, follow SA 510, obtain sufficient appropriate audit evidence regarding the opening balances. And what if you are unable to obtain the evidence regarding opening balances? SA 705, modification to the OPM. Right? So I hope you understand the term initial audit engagement, first time when you are doing the audit. So what about up to last time? Up to last time, either it was not audited or it was audited but not by you, but it was audited by a predecessor auditor. Like predecessor, previous auditor, outgoing auditor. Okay, so that is our discussion of the SA 510. Now coming to SA 520, which is regarding the analytical procedures. Right? Analytical procedures. Right? Analytical procedure. Right? So we have these 7 methods of obtaining audit evidence. Out of that, A over there stands for the analytical procedure. You do evaluation of financial information through analysis of plausible relationship. That means there has to be some link among financial and non-financial data. And wherever you identify an inconsistency, you investigate. Right? So this year, traveling expense 20 crore, last year 7 lakh. You say, last year 7 lakh, this year 20 crore. Did they go to the moon or Mars? Right? So compared to the previous year, what has happened? You have identified an inconsistency. So now what you need to do as an auditor, you need to investigate in detail. Investigate means you are going to do the inquiries of the management and going to perform the other audit procedures as appropriate. Right? Other audit procedures as appropriate. Right? So that is first the definition of analytical procedure. Right. Then it says analytical procedures. How can you perform analytical procedure? Either by doing the comparisons, or by checking the relationships. Comparison, you can compare current year with the previous year, or you can compare current year with the budgets, or you can compare with the similar industry information. Relationship, you can check off financial information with the non-financial information, like payroll cost to number of employees, sales to number of goods sold. Or you can do the trend analysis, compare it for the last 5 years. Or you can calculate some ratios, data turnover ratio, debt equity ratio, current ratio. Right? So this is how you can perform analytical procedure. कैसे परफॉर्म कर सकते हैं? या तो कंपैरिजन कर लो या तो रिलेशनशिप चेक कर लो. Right. Then we also have a question regarding the factors to be considered. है ना? The factors to be considered. Right? The factors to be considered while using the substantive analytical procedures. What are the factors to be considered? SREM. What is SREM? Is it suit to do analytical procedure? Second, whatever data is going to be required to do the analytical, is that data reliable? Then are you able to build up an expectation कि तुम्हारे हिसाब से रेंट कितना होना चाहिए, और अगर डिफरेंस आया तो वो इम्पोर्टेंट है या नहीं, वो किस बेसिस पे पता चलता है? ऑन द बेसिस ऑफ द मटीरियलिटी. Right? So that is fact considered while using the substantive analytical procedure. And another question we have over there is regarding the techniques available to be used as the substantive analytical procedures. But the techniques available. What are the techniques available for performing substantive analytical procedure? One, you have the trend analysis. Right? One, you have the trend analysis. Then after that, you also have the reasonableness test. Right? Then what we also have over there is the reasonableness test. Right? So you compare the financial information with the non-financial information. Trend analysis, you compare it with the previous year. right? So if you look into the content over here, I've already discussed 505, 510. Right now, if we talk about the 520, which is analytical procedure, one I have discussed with you the factors to be considered for substantive analytical procedure. What are the factors to be considered? SREM, right? Suitability, reliability, expectation, and materiality. And what are the techniques available? We say the trend analysis, ratio analysis, the reasonableness test, and the structural model laying. Right, so we have the trend analysis. Then after that, here I can mention the ratio analysis, like debtor turnover ratio, creditor turnover ratio, and the structural modeling, wherein you try to predict the current account balances based on the prior period data. Right, so these are two important questions which we have from the SA 520. Again, relatively more questions are seen in the exam from the SA 520 analytical procedure. Right? So one we discussed regarding the meaning of analytical procedure, how to perform analytical procedure, what are the factors to be considered for substantive analytical procedure, and what are the techniques available as the substantive analytical procedure. Right, you have the trend analysis, ratio analysis, reasonableness test, and the structural model. Okay, now coming to the next one over there, SA 530, which is regarding the audit sampling. Right, so in audit sampling, we talk about the sampling risk, non-sampling risk, tolerable misstatement, tolerable rate of deviation. What is sampling risk? The risk that the sample may not represent the population. The conclusion which you reach by checking the sample may not be the same conclusion which you would have reached had you checked the entire population. So that is sampling risk. Okay, right. Now here we also have these two methods, for the sampling, the two approaches to sampling. We have the statistical sampling and we also have the non-statistical sampling, right? The haphazard sampling. Right? So non-statistical sampling, which does not have the features of statistical sampling, that is the non-statistical sampling. And statistical sampling is where you do the random selection of the sample. You also calculate the sampling risk, including the evaluation, right? So that is called as your statistical sampling. The statistical sampling. One favorite question which ICAI has in the MCQ over here is the characteristics of the population. Okay, from which the sample is to be selected. What are the characteristics of the population? ACR. Okay, एक तो population should be appropriate, second it should be complete, and third it should be reliable. Right, so appropriateness, completeness, and the reliable. Right, the characteristics of the population. Right? And then we have the two approaches to sampling, the non-statistical and the statistical sampling. What is statistical sampling? Which has the random selection of the sample, measurement of the sampling risk, and the probability theory to evaluate the sample result. Right? So again, this definition of statistical sampling would be wonderful if you learn it by heart. At statistical sampling. Right? What does it say? Random selection, evaluate the sample based on the probability theory, and also you calculate the measurement of the sampling risk characteristics. And if it does not have these above features, then it is the non-statistical sample. Right? Then it is the non-statistical sample. Okay. Right? Then the traditional method, the extent of checking, the advantages of statistical sampling. Then after that, the sampling process. Right? The stratification, subdivision of population. And then we also have the sample selection methods, right? What are the principal methods for selection of the sample, right? We also have the discussion regarding the sample selection methods, wherein we have the block selection, random selection, monetary unit sampling, systematic selection, and the haphazard selection. Right, and the haphazard selection. Right, so block, wherein you select consecutive items one after the other. Random, where each item in the population has an equal chance of being selected. Then the monetary unit sampling, wherein you're doing the value weighted selection of the sample. Right? Then systematic sampling, that is where first sample is having a random start and thereafter applying a constant interval, like say 10, 110, 210, 310, 410, 510. That is systematic. And last one, haphazard, where there is no structured technique being followed by the auditor for selecting the sample. Right? So these are the sample selection methods. राइट सैंपल सिलेक्शन मेथड. फिर एक बार सैंपल सिलेक्ट कर लिया तो जो सैंपल सिलेक्ट किया है उस पे यू परफॉर्म द ऑडिट प्रोसीजर. राइट, यू कैन नॉट परफॉर्म द ऑडिट प्रोसीजर ऑन द सिलेक्टेड सैंपल, you perform it on a replacement item. You cannot perform the procedure, perform an alternative procedure. Even and then after performing the procedure, you may either identify a misstatement or you may identify a deviation. Misstatement is for test of detail and deviation is for test of control. अब जो misstatement sample में मिला है, that you need to project to the entire population. कि अगर 10 में 4 एरर है तो 100 में कितना एरर होगा. एक्स्ट्रापोलेशन नहीं करना है. Projection is to be done by statistical method. Right? So you project to the entire population, and then finally, based on the projected misstatement, you check whether your sampling is giving you the reasonable basis for conclusion or it is not giving you the reasonable basis. If it is not giving you the reasonable basis, you investigate. You change, tailor the nature, timing, and extent of the other audit procedure also. Right? You tailor. अभी मैं जो बोल रही हूँ, in case if it is not getting into, immediately because you've not studied it, not getting into your mind, the video is going to be there on YouTube. You can put it on 0.5 or you can put it on 1.5 and you can listen to what I'm saying. पर जो मैं बोल रही हूँ वो स्टैंडर्ड से ही बता रही हूँ. I'm telling you the crux of the standard over here. Right? Clear everyone? Right? So that is SA 530 regarding the audit sampling. Right. Then 540, beautiful, not applicable for CA Inter. Right. Then after that, we have the SA 550, which is actually there in your chapter number 7, which is regarding the related parties. Right? Related parties, which is the accounting standard AS 18, the IND AS 24. Right. So now listen to what I'm saying very carefully. जो भी हम ऑडिट करते हैं वो किसका रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी है? मैनेजमेंट का. तो रिलेटेड पार्टी को आइडेंटिफाई करना, उसका प्रॉपर डिस्क्लोजर करना, ये किसकी रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी है? मैनेजमेंट की. तो हमें क्या करना है? क्या मैनेजमेंट ने अपनी रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी खूब तरीके से निभाई है या नहीं? तो मैंने आपको बोला था मुझे हिंदी भी बोलने आता है. ओके, राइट. ये management fulfill their responsibility is what auditor's responsibility. That is what the auditor need to check, that whether management has fulfilled their responsibility or not. So we'll ask management, always with a blank face, we'll ask, can you tell me management how related parties, how you identify, how disclosures are given, and they tell us some story. Are we going to blindly rely on what they say? No. प्राइमा फेसी विल बिलीव, बट जो भी उन्होंने बोला है हम उसको इनडायरेक्टली चेक करते हैं. से ओके फाइन, यू टोल्ड मी फ्रॉम योर साइड, बट नाउ लेट मी चेक ऑन माय सेल्फ. लाइक आई आस्क यू हाउ मेनी आवर्स यू आर स्टडीइंग. यू सी मैम आई एम स्टडीइंग फॉर 10 hours every week. So directly I asked you, so you told me. But now I talk to your family members, I talk to the library where you're studying, I talk to some friends of yours, and then also check if that person has been telling me that you're studying for 10 hours, person himself, but now can you just confirm it to me? Then they say, ma'am, what fake news, ma'am, no 10 hours, ma'am, mushkil se 10 minutes. So that's what, directly ask, indirectly check. Right? So related parties, or rather anything that we audit, this is our approach. Directly ask, indirectly check. Right? So what we will do while going through the records and documents, we'll try to check whether there are any new related party relationships or the transaction. Right. And then when you are auditing the related party transaction, you may come across, when you are auditing the related party transactions, you may come across a related party transaction, which is ONCB. What is ONCB? That is, it is outside the normal course of the business. Right? It is outside the normal course of the business. It is something very weird. It is something which is very, I say, like a company like Tata Motors. Tata Motors, automotive company. And I tell you that, nowadays Tata Motors has also started selling the cosmetics. So say, man, seriously, why would Tata Motors, an automotive company, start selling nail paint and foundation and eyeliner and all? Is it not something which is weird, which is outside the normal course of the business? Right. So if as an auditor, you identify any related party transaction which is outside the normal course of the business, you are going to check for the ABCD. What is ABCD? Who authorized? Who approved this related party transaction, which is ONCB? What is the business rationale behind this particular transaction, which is ONCB? Is it consistent with the management's explanation, and whether it has been disclosed, whether it has been accounted for as per the AFRF? Because AFRF will say it has to be shown exceptional, unusual, extraordinary items. Right? So that is related party transactions which are prima facie biased, right? Which are not in the ordinary course of business, but they are outside the normal course of the business, right? Outside the normal course of the business. Okay, right. Now coming to the 560, next one, right? Which is regarding the subsequent events. And events occurring after the date of the financial statements, till the date of the auditor's report, and the facts that become known to the auditor after the date of the audit report. Right? So that means if I'm doing audit for 31st March 24, the events occurring between 1st April 24 and say the date of my report is 25th April 24 and the facts after that date. Right? That is subsequent events. And between the date of financial report, the date of the auditor's report, and facts that become known to the auditor after the date of the audit report. Between the date of financial statement and the date of audit report, the subsequent event could be a type 1 event or it could be a type 2 event. Type 1 event which provide additional evidence with respect to the condition that existed on the balance sheet date. Like, debtor became insolvent on 12th April. Did the debtor exist on 31st of March? Yes. So that requires the adjustment, type 1 event. And fire occurred in the company on 15th April. Did the fire exist on 31st of March? No. So that means it requires the disclosure. Right? So type 1 require adjustment, type 2 require disclosure. For both, as an auditor, you need to obtain the SAAE. What is SAAE? Sufficient appropriate audit evidence. To obtain SAAE, what you need to do? You need to perform the audit procedure. Right? To obtain SAAE, क्या करना पड़ेगा? Audit करना पड़ेगा. ऑडिट का स्टेप 1 क्या होता है? किसकी रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी है? मैनेजमेंट की. तो मेक इंक्वायरीज ऑफ द मैनेजमेंट. व्हाट इज आवर स्टाइल? डायरेक्टली आस्क, इनडायरेक्टली चेक. So now we are going to indirectly check it from the minutes of the meeting. Right? Then after that, the interim financial statements. Right? Then the position of the legal cases. Right? Then the budget's cash flow forecast. Right? Budget's cash flow forecast. And we will also obtain the written representations from the management. Right? So these are our audit procedures. Right? These are our audit procedures. And fact, है ना, आपने ऑडिट रिपोर्ट इशू कर दिया और फिर पता चला ये कंपनी तो सत्य में फ्रॉड हैज हैपेंड. So now अगर ये बात आपको पहले पता होती, you would have issued a different audit report. It would have caused the auditor to amend the auditor's report. Right? So now to amend the audit report, fact which would have caused the auditor to amend the audit report, it says auditor, you need to respond appropriately. And what is the appropriate response? Auditor, you need to DDI. Again, this is a favorite question in the MCQ. What you need to do? Discuss the matter with the management. Management, ऐसे कैसे इतना बड़ा fraud हो गया? Then determine whether the financial statements need the amendment. क्योंकि financial statements को reopen करके change करना जरूरी है. और अगर लगता है कि जरूरी है तो मैनेजमेंट को पूछिए कि क्या मैनेजमेंट आप चेंज करने वाले हो या नहीं. Right? Inquire as to how management intends to address the issue. Right? Inquire as to how management intends to address the issue. Right? So today's SSS. What is SSS? Screenshot, save, share. Right? So that you can do for the SA 560. Right? SA 560, which is regarding the subsequent events. And regarding the subsequent events. What you have to do? Maybe अभी तक आपने अभी बुक खोला है और ये कुछ आपको पता नहीं है और यहाँ पे मैं ऐसे पढ़ा रही हूँ. So now you take the time now to read the content in your book, check the questions regarding that, do the writing practice for the same. तो अभी जरूरत नहीं है ना ऑप्शन में छोड़ने की. जरूरत नहीं है ना. You understand that? Okay. And so that is SA 560, which is regarding the subsequent events. Okay. Right. Then after that, we have the next standard over there, which is the SA 570, which is regarding the going concern, a fundamental accounting assumption used by the management in the preparation of the financial statements. As an auditor, you need to check for the accurateness of the management's use of the going concern assumption in the preparation and presentation of financial statements and whether there is any material uncertainty. Like, I don't know whether you know that song, but like, you don't know कल क्या होगा, किसने देखा, मालूम नहीं, मुझे तो कुछ गड़बड़ लग रहा है. Material uncertainty. Why? Due to events or condition. और ऐसी घटनाएं, ऐसी कंडीशन जिसके कारण आपको लग रहा है भाई ये तो एकदम वेंटिलेटर सिचुएशन है, कब ये कंपनी टपक जाए बोल नहीं सकते हैं. You have a significant doubt and regarding the entity's ability to continue as a going concern. So, अगर जैसे किसी को बुखार आ जाए, so then you don't say, अरे बाप रे, significant doubt regarding going concern. No. But if somebody gets a heart attack and then, God forbid, it should not happen. And then there are some 4 blockages or something identified. And then there is like a, now God knows whether the doctor, will be able to save, whether any miracle will happen. So that's a significant. And regarding the company's ability to continue as a going concern. Appropriateness कि क्या ये लोग बोल रहे हैं हमारा फ्यूचर है, क्या सही में इनका है क्या फ्यूचर. तुम बोलते इनकी हालत तो देखो, लग चुकी है इनकी. मटीरियल अनसर्टेनिटी. क्यों मटीरियल अनसर्टेनिटी? ऐसी घटनाएं घटी है जिसके कारण आपको लगता है भाई ये तो गए काम. देयर इज अ सिग्निफिकेंट डाउट. क्या घटनाएं घटी है? व्हाट इज द who over there? Right? There are the financial indications of the going concern. Right? If financially company is bleeding, it's in the red. What lag chuki hai? They don't have money to pay creditor. They don't have money to pay to the bank. They don't have money to pay taxes. No creditor is ready to give them the goods on credit basis. No bank is ready to give them a loan. All ratios are in the red. And so financial indications, then operating indication. है ना, फैक्ट्री बंद पड़ी है, टॉप मैनेजमेंट छोड़ के चले गए, लेबर स्ट्राइक पे चले गए हैं, है ना, सप्लाईज रॉ मटेरियल का सप्लाई बंद हो गया है ना, व्हाट यू से कॉम्पिटिटर आ गए हैं, हाईली सक्सेसफुल कॉम्पिटिटर. So operating indication. And last one is balancing figure, other indications. The company is not able to comply with laws, regulation, too much of litigations going on, आग लग गई बहुत बड़ी कंपनी में, बहुत बड़ा नुकसान हो गया, गवर्नमेंट का रूल चेंज हो गया, जीएसटी आ गया, मोनेटाइजेशन आ गई, बहुत सारे कंपनी तो बंद पड़ गए. Right. So what are these? These are the financial, operating, and the other indications of the going concern. Right. So appropriateness, क्या whether there is any material uncertainty. कैसे पता चलेगा कि अरे डगमग material uncertainty, events or conditions which may cast a अच्छा कसम है ना इन मराठी जैसे ना अभी तुम बोलते हो अब क्या होगा अब कैसे होगा that time. And due to events or condition. And what are those events or condition? तुम बोलो ये कंपनी को फूक मारो ये उड़ जाएगी, है ना. Financial indication, operating indication, and the other indications of the going concern. And then we talk about the going concern and the auditor's report. One, we say going concern assumption is okay. And second, we say, there. Going जाने में है, going concern assumption is inappropriate. You say, management, what you are saying, you're going concern, look at your halat. So in that case, as an auditor, you will issue an adverse opinion saying that financial statements are not a true and fair. नहीं है true, नहीं है fair. Right, appropriate, but there is the material uncertainty. Going concern ठीक है, but कुछ तो गड़बड़ दिख रही है. Then you check वो गड़बड़ का क्या management has made the adequate, not only disclosure, but adequate disclosures in financial statements. Yes, then as an auditor, unmodified opinion with material uncertainty related to going concern. Right? Material uncertainty related to going concern. Second one, no adequate disclosures in financial statements. है ना, मैनेजमेंट ने कुछ नहीं लिखा है इसके बारे में फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट्स में. देन क्वालिफाइड ओपिनियन और द एडवर्स ओपिनियन. एंड थर्ड वन, मैनेजमेंट इज अनविलिंग टू डू असेसमेंट. ऑडिटर बोले जा रहा है तुम्हारे बारे में मेरे को डाउट है तुम्हारी कंपनी ठीक नहीं चल रही है. मैनेजमेंट बोलते हमको कोई परवाह नहीं है, हमें नहीं चेक करना. So again, as an auditor, you have to consider the implications for the audit report. It could lead to qualified or disclaimer of the opinion. Right, qualified or the disclaimer of opinion. Okay, right, so that is SA 570 regarding the going concern. Right, that's SA 570 regarding the going concern. Right, SA 570, which is regarding the going concern. Right, so again an important standard. ये सारे जो CA इंटर के नोट्स हैं ना इनको एकदम प्रिजर्व करके रखना for CA final, because whatever standards are applicable at CA inter, same at CA final plus many more, including a lot of case study based questions. You loving it? What we are discussing in the class, everyone? Yes, I hope those of you who are later on also seeing these classes on YouTube, if you are having a thought that, oh, some good content has come to my hand and I do justice to the time that you are giving to me or which you have given to me. Okay, that I'll come to know from the increasing number of views. Okay, you'll say, ma'am, I take the moral responsibility of, ensuring that your video reaches to the maximum number of students. I know, Gen Z, what type of thoughts you process in your mind. Okay, even so I can understand the mindset of a Gen Z, so no issues with that. Okay, right. So next one, SA 580, which is regarding the written representation. And written representations, it is a statement provided by the management to the auditor to confirm certain matters or to support other audit evidence. So सबसे पहले तो definition of written representation, learn it by heart. It is a statement provided by the management to the auditor to confirm certain matters or to support other audit evidence, to confirm certain matters or to support the other audit evidence. right? Then written representations provide the necessary audit evidence, but it does not provide the sufficient appropriate audit evidence on any of the matters on their own, right? So written representations provide you with the necessary audit evidence, but it does not give you the sufficient appropriate audit evidence. Right. Then we also talk about the reliability. Yes, that if you have doubts regarding the integrity of the management, or if the representation is inconsistent with the other audit evidence available, as an auditor, you may conclude that written representations are not reliable. And finally, SE 705, it may lead to qualified or disclaimer because it's a limitation on scope. You're unable to obtain the evidence. So तुम्हें लगता है अरे यार ये मैनेजमेंट बहुत फ्रॉड है, या जो रिप्रेजेंटेशन में लिखते हैं, जो बाकी एविडेंस में लिखा है, कुछ मैच नहीं हो रहा है, तो तुम क्या बोलोगे? भाई ये रिप्रेजेंटेशन नॉट रिलायबल. Not reliable मतलब illa, unable to obtain sufficient appropriate audit evidence. What to do? Qualified or disclaimer of the opinion. And qualified or the disclaimer of the opinion. And again, you're telling management, give representation. They say no. Auditors think management, they do representation. They say no. What do you say? Limitation on scope. Modify opinion 70. Right? Modify opinion SA 705. Okay. And so basically, have I tried revising with you majorly the 500 series over here? Right? The students who are watching me, can you express your opinion regarding our discussion of the 500 series? मजा आया? कल 500, 501 पढ़ा, आज remaining of the 500 series का glimpse लिया, मजा आया? Was it wonderful? What was it? Or right, what would you, like, auditor expresses opinion true and fair, what would you say? Right? Okay. Yes, Priya, good morning. Nice to see you in the class. Okay, right. So let's proceed to the, I think we've completed chapter 4, chapter 7 also, completion and review also for discussion over there. Right, so we've completed with the 560, 570, 580 over there. Now let's come to these other chapters which we have for our discussion. One is the chapter number 5 and second is the chapter number 9, which is regarding the audit of the items of the financial statements and the audit of the different types of the entities. Okay, but as a base to study this particular chapter, this chapter number 5 and 9, let us look into the MCQ 1 for the Jan 25. Let us look into the MCQs given over there. Right, let us just have a look into the MCQs given over there. Okay, right, so let me open a particular MTP. Yeah, over here. Right, so I am in the, over here, the MTP, right, 1 for the Jan 25 attempt, right? This is the question paper over here. Okay, right, so let's start. Case scenario 1. While auditing A&J Industries Private Limited, CAJ decided that it would be appropriate to examine 100% of the item comprising turnover of 30 crore as reflected in the financial statements. In this regard, he has designed test of detail for transactions forming part of company's turnover. Right? So for turnover, the CA has designed the test of detail, right? Test of detail. The sales function is automated in the company's information system involving repetitive nature of calculation. Further, in respect of designing TOC pertaining to the turnover, he is in a fix. So TOD he knows, but TOC he is in doubt. While verifying the turnover of the company, so I'm talking about the audit of the sales of products and services, right? So that's our chapter number 5. CAJ ensures that all the sales are correctly recorded in the books of account based on the invoices and the discounts have been properly adjusted. That means the amount of the invoice. Similarly, in respect of verification of employee benefit, तो एक तो turnover check किया, फिर verification of the employee benefit expense reflected in the financial statements. He ensured that TDS related adjustments are correctly reconciled and accounted for. So यहाँ देखा discount, यहाँ देखा TDS. Then Ankush is an article assistant who has recently joined CAJ for practical training. He is also a part of the team assisting seniors. He has read about assertions. There remains doubt about assertions in his mind. He noted down the following points about assertions as per his understanding. Assertions are the representations made by the auditor. Oh my God, these are the representations made by the management. Assertions are generally explicit and not implied. No, they could be explicit or they could be the implied assertion. Verification of the assertion helps the auditor to find out whether financial statements are prepared in accordance with AFRF or not. Yes, that is why we check each balance sheet item and each CML assertion. In the normal course of business, the company also holds a part of goods as a consignment. While verifying the assertions related to inventory, he ensures that inventory held by the company as consignee of goods on behalf of third party is excluded from the inventory. बोले कि जो third party का inventory हमारे पास है, that's not our inventory. It is the other party inventory, so it should be excluded from the inventory. Based on the above fact, answer. Okay. Right, considering approach of CAJ in respect of TOD and TOC related to turnover, which of the following statement is most appropriate? Approach for designing TOD, TOC is proper. Approach for designing TOD is proper. However, it is unlikely approach for TOC. Approach for designing TOC is proper. However, it is unlikely approach for TOD. The approach for designing TOD as well as TOC is not proper. तो पहले में बोलते both are proper, third B में बोलते both are not proper. Now here what did they say over here? Right, that the sales function of the company is repetitive in nature. So in respect of designing the test of control, it is in a fix. Whereas for the test of detail, it has decided to check the transaction for the company turnover. So because it's repetitive in nature, does not make any sense for doing the TOC over there. You check one control and the same control will be there across all transactions, effective or ineffective. So the approach for designing TOD is proper. However, it is unlikely approach for the TOC. Which assertion is being verified by CAJ for correctness of recording of sales on the basis of the invoices and the TDS adjustment for the employee benefit expenses respectively? Yeah, so sales may, they want to check the discount, and in the employee benefit expenses, salary expenses, they want to check the TDS. That means in both cases, they want to check the amount of sales, the amount of the salary. So is it existent? No, it is not the existent. Is it ensuring that whether all sales have been recorded? No, it is not all sales have been recorded. But is it marginal, that is sales recorded at the correct amount? Yes. Is employee, so it could be A or D. And no, even salary, what they want to check, employee benefit expense, is it recorded at the correct amount? They are not talking about all. So that is why the correct option will be A, right? That is why the correct option will be A. Considering the view of Ankush, which of the following are false? Which of the following are false? Right? So assertions are representations made by auditor, false. Assertions generally explicit, false. And last one we've already said, that is right, which is true. So 1 and 2 are false. 1 and 2 are false. As regards the matter of holding inventories of certain inventories of consignee of the goods, which type of assertion is being verified by the auditor? Right? So for inventories, what are the assertions that we have? ERCV and a balance sheet item. So are we checking for the cutoff of the inventory, that whether it is recorded in the correct accounting period? No. Then are we checking for the complete list, that only company inventory is recorded and third party inventory held by the company is excluded? So held as the consignee of the goods on behalf of the third party is excluded. So one, are we checking for the completeness? Yes. So obviously no rights and obligation only. So this option goes out. So what are we checking? We are checking for completeness and also at the same time checking for the rights and obligation also. That what inventory is in the name of the company, it should be recorded in the books. What is not in the name of company, it should be excluded. Right? So we are checking for both completeness and the rights and obligation. Okay. Right. So देखो, look at the level of the questions which they have made from the items of financial statements. Look at turnover, employee benefit expenses, then the assertions, SA 500, and then inventories as consigned. Okay. Now, case scenario 2. Raven, Manohar, and Piyush are planning to set up a new business for trading of electronic goods. They have heard in business circles that many entrepreneurs are setting up their organization as LLP. However, they lack knowledge about such legal structure. So they decided to approach CAS for understanding the difference between a partnership firm, an LLP, and a private company. They also want to gain the knowledge of the legal provisions regarding number of partners, paperwork involved in the forming of an LLP. Further, they also have doubts regarding maintenance of books of account and audit requirement for such organization. Raven, being cost conscious, specifically asked CAS regarding requirement of audit of LLP. And during the discussion, he shared that they are expecting a turnover of 5 crore and funds amounting to 50 lakhs would be brought in by the partners as a contribution. Manohar is concerned about the rules regarding the maintenance of accounts in the software with an audit trail feature. He has a vague understanding gained through social media that such rules have recently come into effect. Moreover, he believes that these features are useful only for auditors. To address his concern, CAS attempts to explain these matters to him. After resolving their doubts, they decided to constitute an LLP named Blitz Product LLP with the professional assistance of CAS, who helped him in completing the necessary paper formalities. After constituting an LLP, they acquired dealership of few reputed companies and received a good response from market due to prominent location of their showroom and are confident of achieving their turnover expectation within the first year of the business. They plan to get their accounts audited after the closure of the year from CAS. The finance and accounts function of the business is being headed by Piyush, and he plans to contact him somewhere around August 24 for getting the audit conducted, filing income tax return, making necessary regulatory compliance on behalf of the LLP. Based on the above fact, answer the following. Right, so what we'll do in the other book of ours, let us just open the new textbook, the LLP audit chapter. Right. So, yeah, in this book, so that we can apply the legal provisions within a year. So, yeah, this is audit report. Features of audit of different types of entities. Yeah, and here we have the LLP audit. But here we have the audit of the LLP. And now based on the questions, we'll be coming back to this particular file. Okay, right. Which of the following is correct regarding the difference in types of organizational structure and their connected matters? LLP gives the benefit of flexibility of a limited liability of a partnership and good governance of a company. A minimum of 2 individuals are required to form an LLP and at least 2 partners are required to take the bill. The regulatory authority in case of LLP is registrar of firm. No, it is the ROC. So this is out. LLP gives the benefit of LLP of a company and the flexibility of partnership, correct? A minimum of 2 individuals are required to form an LLP and at least 2 partners are required to take the DPIN, designated partner. And the regulatory authority is the ROC, correct? So regulatory authority is the ROC. Right, now again, LLP gives the benefit of the limited liability of a company and a flexibility of partnership. A minimum of 2 individuals are required to form an LLP and at least 2 partners are required to take DIN. So your DPIN and your DIN. And LLP gives the benefit of an LLP of a company and the flexibility of partnership. A minimum of 3 individuals. No. Right, so minimum of the 2 individuals, that is right. Then it says ROC, that is right. But here it says DPIN, here it says DIN. Right, so it is the DPIN. Right, so B is the correct option. Which advice should have been considered by CAS to Revant regarding the audit of financial statements of LLP, considering the description provided in the case scenario? Right, so turnover 5 crore and capital contribution is going to be 50 lakhs. Right, so let us look over here. Right, what does it say? Turnover more than 5 crore and capital contribution more than the 25 lakhs. Then it says it is required to get its account audited. Both these limits have been exceeded over there. Okay. So now let us come. There is no provision for compulsory audit. No, there are provisions. Every LLP is compulsorily required to get its account audited. No. There exists a provision under the LLP rules based on the twin criteria of turnover and contribution. The proposed business doesn't meet the threshold, or the proposed business meets the threshold. Right? So the proposed business needs the threshold and would be required to get its accounts audited. Right? Would be required to get its account audited. Which of the following statement is correct regarding Manohar's point of view? Right? So regarding the audit trail. Audit trail are useful only for auditors? No. Audit trail are useful for business as well as auditors? Yes. For business as well as auditors? For business as well as auditors. Okay. However, maintenance of accounting software having feature of audit trail is not compulsory for LLP. It is compulsory for LLP and compulsory for LLP having certain threshold. No, so it is not compulsory for LLP. It is compulsory for the company, right? It is compulsory for the company, not compulsory for the LLP, right? Which of the following statement is correct regarding PU's plan, right? So let us look into the appointment of the auditor. What does it say? First year, the auditor has to be appointed before the end of the first financial year, right? Before the end of the first financial year. Right, so at least 30 days prior, at least 60 days prior, any time before 31st March, and there is no specific provision. No. So what does it say? It needs to appoint an auditor at least any time before 31st of March, the first auditor. Therefore, PU's plan to approach CAS is not in accordance with the relevant rules and regulations. And considering PU's plan to contact CAS in August 24 for making the necessary regulatory compliance could lead to. Right, so now we need to look into the due dates for the filing of the annual accounts and the annual return by the LLP. Right, so it is required to file the annual return within 60 days of the closure of the financial year. And the LLP has to submit the statement of accounts and solvency within 30 days from the end of 6 months. So statement of accounts and solvency, they'll be able to follow, but annual return, they will be a default. Right, so annual return. So default by LLP in filing its annual return. Right, deferred by LLP in filing its annual return. Okay, now coming to the case scenario 3. Right, so that's one LLP and they've made an entire integrated case scenario regarding the LLP. Okay, now coming to the case scenario 3. Obama and Associates were appointed as auditors for Royal Construction Limited for 23-24. During the audit, the auditors observed the significant amount of WIP inventory. Instead of attending the count, they relied on alternative procedure. These included reviewing the production reports, reconciling them with the recorded inventory level, and analyzing variance trends to assess the accuracy of the WIP balance. Okay. The auditor also noticed that the company has obsolete inventory of 175,000, which had an estimated sizable value of the 50,000, and the company has valued it as cost in its financial statements. Just a moment. Yes, company has valued it at cost in its financial statements. Okay. Of absolute inventory of 175 and the realizable value is 50,000. And what is the value of the inventory? 175. Now, during the review of PPE, the audit team noted that the company included 105,000 for employee benefit related to the acquisition of PPE and 125,000 for testing the functionality of the equipment, offset by 35,000 received from the sale of the samples produced during the testing. Obama and Associates derive a significant portion of their income from Royal Constructions amounting to 10 lakh, which represents 65% of their revenue. Despite finding financial discrepancies of 3 lakh in the company accounts, the partners decided to overlook these issues to maintain their lucrative relationship with the client. Right? So there seems to be a self-interest threat over here, their lucrative relationship with the client. Now, Royal Construction Limited should value the obsolete inventory at cost or NRV, whichever is lower. So what is the NRV? 50,000. So what does it say? It has to be valued at 50,000. It should be written off completely? No. What amount should be included in the cost of PPE in the financial statements? Right? So what is the cost they have over there? The 1,25,000, right? 1,05,000 for the employee benefit related to the acquisition and offset by the 35,000. If you do 125, 1,05,000, you put 2,30,000 minus the 35,000, which comes to 1,95,000. Right? Because that much the sale has been done from the samples produced during the testing. Right? So 1,05,000 plus 1,25,000 minus 35,000. Okay. And what potential threat to the independence of Verma and Associates arises? Fee of 10 lakh, obviously it's a self-interest. Right? Because they have the fear of losing the client. Okay. And now coming to some general MCQs over there. RJ and Associates Chartered Accountants has been auditing the books of GP Resorts Private Limited for the past 2 years. GP Resorts Private Limited has experienced a significant increase in the visitor due to a successful marketing campaign. This increase in the number of visitors has prompted the resort to introduce new services such as event hosting, which contribute to higher revenue. Whether RG and Associates would issue a revised audit engagement letter to the GP Resorts Private Limited, right? So circumstances where auditor is required to send a new engagement letter, right? So one, it says no engagement letter is not required. New engagement letter is not required. Yes, the auditor is required to issue a new engagement letter for each period. Or yes, a new engagement letter is required due to the significant change in the nature and size of the business, and it is not required. So there is a significant change in the nature and size of the business, That is why a new engagement letter is required. Okay. Tad and Associates, the sole proprietor firm of Agamya, is offered appointment as an auditor of a company engaged in the manufacturing of automobile components for the first time. She is checking the facts about the integrity of the promoters, also checking the competence of the staff to perform the engagement. And then the appointment is accepted. So what are they trying to do? Preliminary engagement activities as per SA 300. So Agamya is establishing audit strategy, designing audit plan, checking compliance. No, is conducting the PEA, the preliminary engagement activities. And the last one over there, a practicing PA has been engaged by a company to perform certain procedure regarding its trade payable. Such AUP, agreed upon procedures, SRS 4400, include verification of purchases from related parties, sending confirmation letters, and reporting the factual discrepancies to the management of the company. Which of the following statement is correct in this context? Right? The practicing CA shall perform the work as per the SRS and the SA, will perform the work as per the SRS and the SQC, shall perform the work as per SA, will perform the work as per SAE and SQC. So obviously it has to be the SRS, and it is SRS and not SA, but the SRS and the SQC one, right? And the SQC one. So that is why the correct option would be B. Right? So see, just one particular, set of MCQs over there can give you a ground base of the touch with the reality, right? Regarding how much of these particular MCQs you are able to answer and know. And just one piece of advice regarding MCQs before we come to these other discussions, that never ever see the answer of the MCQs before you try to think of an answer on your own. Never ever try to see the answer, oh, it's written B, and then you just convince yourself why it is B. There will be no learning curve for you at all. Even if you solve 1,000 MCQs in this manner, it won't be of any use. But even if you solve 200 MCQs with the mindset of you are thinking on your own, what should be the answer? You thought B, and then it is written over your C. And then you try to understand what went wrong in my thinking, or you already thought of B, and B was the answer. So you are able to, be confident. Yeah, I have been thinking on the right track. That's only what is going to be effective. That self-discipline, that urge is there, oh, let me see the answer and then get convinced. No, not trick, because you're losing on the opportunity to learn or assess it. If you give the wrong answer, be super happy, because if you would have not given the wrong answer right now, you would have committed that error in the exam. Right? So, as a very important thumb rule, please, please, please do not ever read the answers of the MCQ unless and until you have thought of an answer on your own. Okay, right. And other, like sometimes, in the exam question paper, you see these big case study questions being put over there. Question number 3A, bhar bhar ke 8-10 lines are written. And in the last line of the question, there is a sentence written. One trick, one tip which I can probably share with you over here, कि बहुत ही रामायण महाभारत too much of written. So what you do, just read the last line of the question first. And बहुत बार ऐसे होता है, you read the last line and you come to know, oh simple, they are asking circumstances for sending new engagement letter, 7 changes and 1 misunderstanding. So doesn't matter what is written over here at all. If you end up reading all that story, you waste your time over there, and unnecessarily you get to carried away by that story, which has no relevance to the answer written. Or sometimes when you read that line and then you realize, oh my God, no, only reading last line is not helping. Then you again come back to the entire. But preference would be what? Okay, first see that. So this will help you to take time. Sometimes, the integrated case scenarios are also like this. Okay, no need to read the entire case scenario. You just read the question and you are able to answer. No, not always, but yeah, sometimes. But for the theory part of the paper, it happens a lot. It's no story, it's no drama. And say, oh my God, this is what they had to ask. Right? So this is one trick which could help you to save the time. You just eliminate the part of the story writing that they've done. Read the last line of the question first. If that is serving your purpose, go ahead. Nahi ho raha hai usse, so then you go and read the quiz story. You follow? You follow, right, what I say? Okay. Right. So now let us come to the discussion regarding the audit of the different types of the entity, and then we'll come to the items of the financial statement. Okay. So we have these different institutions over there. We have these 14 institutions over there. So part A, then the part B is government audit, and then the part C is regarding the cooperative societies. Okay. Any institution that we audit, different types of institution, it says these are certain common points which you can write to beautify any of your answer. The study, examine, evaluate, examine. What? Examine the constitution, so whether it's an LLP, cooperative society, company, private company, trust or so. Then based on the constitution, you study the bylaws, the rules, regulations of the trustee. Then you check the powers of the members of the management and the other officers. Like, for a company, they will have their memorandum of association, articles of association, they will have their board of directors. But for a trust, they will be having the rules, the bylaws of the trust. And they will also be having the managing committee of the trust. So depending upon the institution, accordingly, the legal setup, these particular, the rules and regulations and points will change. But yeah, the constitution, the rules and the bylaws. Then after that, you look into the power. Powers would be exercised in the meeting. So you check the minutes book of the managing committee and of the member general meeting, as the case may be. So first 2 points, constitution, rules and bylaws. Then powers and minutes. Then after that, you study the internal control system, accounting policies, accounting records. And so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And these 6 points can come in the beginning. Constitution, rules by law, powers, minutes of the meeting, internal control system, accounting policies and records. तो जो भी institution का audit कर रहे हो, for that you have to do the audit of the receipts. Then you have to do the audit of the expenditure and then the audit of the assets and liabilities. Right, so if it's a wholesale question, how do you do the audit of a hotel, hospital? You can write all these things. Or there could be a question, okay, how do you audit the receipts of a hotel? Right, so either they can ask on entire hotel or they can ask the receipts of the hotel, or there could be a specific question that how do you audit the room sales of the hotel? Or, pilfering is one of the biggest problem, chori in the hotel industry. So how do you audit that? Right, so it could be wholesale, retail, micro, or the MCQ questions which can. Right, but backup plan for you is what? That you have to write down the legal provision, right? The legal provision, the constitution, the rules and bylaws, the minutes of the meeting, and a constitution, rules, bylaws, powers, minutes of the meeting, internal control system, accounting policies and records. Then after that, you write down the points regarding how do you audit the receipts and the expenditure of that institution. Right? Then the points regarding the capital assets and the liabilities. Right? The capital assets and the liability. And then any special points related to that particular institution. For expenditure, I can always write down the point that as an auditor, you need to check the internal control system. Right? You need to check whether the expenditure is properly authorized. You need to compare the expenditure with the budget, compare it with the previous year. Right? For receipts, you want to check the receipt book. You also want to check the entries in the cash book. Right? You also want to check any discounts given, are they properly authorized? Right? Then generally these institutions, they have a lot of investment income. So investment income, again, if it is a hospital or a trust, right, they have the interest which they received on the investment income. But that interest, when they receive, the TDS is deducted. But that TDS refund has to be claimed, as generally these institutions are exempt from the payment of the tax. Right? Then many of these institutions, they receive the grants and the donation. Right? So for grants, you need to check the grant letter. Then again, the authorization. For donation, again, you need to check the receipts which have been issued to the donors. Also check whether it is a general donation or whether it is a specific purpose donation for purchase of computer. If for the purchase of computer, then check whether it has been applied for the same. Right? So these are a few points you can write regarding the receipts. Right? Then as capital, you have to check the corpus fund. Right? So you need to check non-refundable security deposit. Has it been transferred, capitalized? Then assets, you need to check the non-current assets, current assets, and the provisions and the known liabilities and the contingent liability. So this is like the backup, right? So then you can use words like check, examine, ensure, study, verify, see, ascertain, inspect, different words you can start your answers with. And no writing only the headings, no writing the paragraphs, but you have to write down the sentences and leave a line between the two sentences. And leave a line. It should never happen that a question has come regarding these different types of entity and you don't write an answer. कुछ तो लिख के ही है ना, कि whether the investment income ये होता ही है, then the TDS refund, grants, donation, discount, जो main source of income है, फिर जो general constitution है वो institution का, right? Your lender of last resort, your backup plan for writing the audit of the answers for the audit of the different types of the entity. Right? The different types of the entities, right? So you have sole trader, LLP, and so many institutions audit over there, right? And now ये जो दो chapters है, because I want to mention some important points to you, right? We have one audit of the items of the financial statement, and we have the audit of the different types of the entities. And then obviously we have the other chapters also. This is chapter number 5. This is chapter number 9. In the items, we have the 17 items, and 11 of the balance sheet and 6 of the profit and loss account. Right? And here we have the 14 different types of the entities. Now, these two chapters, you are not going to study in one thing. So what you can do, 1 or 2 items and 1 or 2 entities. Every time when you study audit, you are going to complete this chapter on a EMI basis, an equated monthly installment. है ना, जैसे ऑडिट डॉक्यूमेंटेशन का चैप्टर है, ऑडिट रिपोर्ट का स्टैंड चैप्टर है, दैट यू कैन कंप्लीट इन वन डे. बट दिस चैप्टर, बोथ ऑफ दिस, I want you to take 7 days, 7 days to complete this chapter. Like if there are 14 items of the financial statement, 14 different types of entity, every day you're studying two entity, ऐसे करके आपने 14 entities खत्म किया 7 days में. And here you have the different items of the financial statement. So then again, say you took the 8 days. Right? So two different items of the financial statement. One day you do 3, and that is how you complete this chapter. Then this chapter does not become overwhelming. You understand? Okay. फिर हर एक आइटम जो फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट का पढ़ते हैं उसका आपको 4 ध्यान रखना है. नंबर 1, 3 बातों का. नंबर 1, you have to check what are the special points regarding that particular item. कि जैसे शेयर कैपिटल है तो उसमें स्वेट इक्विटी शेयर, बोनस शेयर, रिडक्शन ऑफ शेयर कैपिटल. देन आफ्टर दैट यू हैव टू फोकस ऑन द ऑडिट प्रोसीजर assertion wise. That how do you check the ERCV, how do you check the OCACC for balance sheet and for the profit and loss account item. And for हर एक item का you also have to study the schedule 3 disclosures. So 17 items है, हर एक item का schedule 3 disclosure आपको पढ़ना है. जैसे एग्जाम्पल है ना, शेयर कैपिटल. अब शेयर कैपिटल के क्या स्पेशल पॉइंट है, एग्जाम्पल है ना, स्पेशल पॉइंट क्या है. Example I'm writing, sweat equity shares, reduction of share capital. Okay. Then audit mein, how you do the audit of the existence of share capital, say the completeness of the share capital. Maybe there is valuation also. And then the schedule 3 disclosure related to the share capital. And schedule 3 disclosure related to share capital. फिर जैसे tangible fixed assets है, property, plant, equipment, and you have the intangible fixed assets. Tangible mein, they have a special point over there regarding the distinction between the revenue expenditure and the capital expenditure. Here you have the definition of intangible assets. For audit procedure, for both you have to study the audit of the ERCV, ERCV. And then for both, you have to study the schedule 3 disclosure for the property, plant, equipment, and for the intangible assets. That is how you chunk it. Then chunk it into parts and then study it. Okay. So, एक बार ऐसे 8 दिन लगा के तुमने 2 3 आइटम खत्म किए, फिर एक बार जब ये चैप्टर रिवाइज कर रहे हो तो क्या करो, सारे जो 17 आइटम्स है फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट का, बस उनका शेड्यूल 3 डिस्क्लोजर पढ़ है ना. डिफरेंट अप्रोच के सारे का शेड्यूल 3 डिस्क्लोजर पढ़ लिए, या सारे के स्पेशल पॉइंट पढ़ लिए, या जितने बैलेंस शीट आइटम है जहां जहां एग्जिस्टेंस किया सारा एग्जिस्टेंस पढ़ लिया है ना. तो ऐसे ये चैप्टर को मतलब एक साथ अभी मतलब मोबाइल से अगर 4 ऐप चलाने हैं तो एक साथ वो चारों ऐप नहीं चल सकते ना. यू हैव टू गो इन अ पर्टिकुलर ऐप, देन कम आउट ऑफ दैट, देन गो टू द अदर वन. यू हैव टू डू मल्टीटास्किंग. So likewise is the approach to be followed in this particular chapter. Okay. What are the items of the financial statement over there? We have the balance sheet and the statement of profit and loss. Right? In the balance sheet, we have the share capital. Then we have the discussion regarding the Acha, भेजना, yeah, right. Then we have the discussion regarding the reserves and surplus. Right. Then the discussion which we have is regarding the loans and borrowings. Right. Then after that, we have the discussion regarding the audit of the tangible fixed assets, that is your property, plant, equipment. And then the discussion regarding the intangible fixed assets. Okay. Right. Right? So tangible fixed assets, then the intangible fixed assets. Then after that, we have the discussion regarding the inventories. Then after that, we have the cash and the cash equivalents. You say, ma'am, for the first time, we are coming to know कि ये सारे items है financial statement audit के chapter में. हम तो बस यूं पेजेस को पलटते ही हमारा टाइम निकल जाता है ना? Okay, right? So cash and cash equivalents. Then you have the trade receivable, right? Then after the trade receivable, we have the loans and advances and the other current assets, right? Loans and advances and the other current assets. Then we have the trade payables and the other current liabilities. And the last one we have is the provisions and the contingent liabilities. You say, ma'am, अगर हमको ये इतनी भी अंडरस्टैंडिंग होती ना तो हमको पता चल रहा है कि ये कैसे पढ़ना है. Most of the students I have seen, they consider this chapter to be a jungle and they are lost in the items of the balance sheet. Then we have the items of the profit and loss account, wherein we have the sale of the products and the services. Right? Sale of the products and the services. Then after that, we have the purchases. Then the employee benefit expense. Right? Then after that, the depreciation and the amortization expense. This is depreciation question hai, what are the attributes, then how you do the audit, and what are the Schedule 3 disclosure. Right? And then we have the audit of the other income. What is the recognition criteria? What are the audit procedure? And we also have the other, right? The other expenses. So again, we have a discussion, okay, what are the attributes while verifying the other expenses, right? So 4, 5, and 6. चैप्टर छोड़ना नहीं है. वॉल्यूम बहुत ज्यादा है, इसीलिए ये चैप्टर छोड़ना नहीं है. क्या बताया मैंने कि हर एक आइटम ऑफ फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट का 3 डायमेंशनल स्टडी करना है. क्या स्पेशल पॉइंट है, क्या ऑडिट प्रोसीजर है, क्या शेड्यूल 3 डिस्क्लोजर. कोई मौके पे ऐसे करना है दैट यू ओनली स्टडी द शेड्यूल 3 डिस्क्लोजर्स ओवर देयर. फिर ऐसा जरूरी नहीं है दैट एवरी टाइम यू फर्स्ट स्टडी द बैलेंस शीट. व्हाट यू कैन डू, फर्स्ट एक बार पढ़ा तो पहले बैलेंस शीट पढ़ा, फिर पीएनएल पढ़ा. सेकेंड टाइम जब पढ़ा, पहले पीएनएल पढ़ा, फिर बैलेंस शीट पढ़ा. फिर ऐसा जरूरी नहीं है कि शेयर कैपिटल से शुरू करना है. You can go LIFO also. You can start with provision, contingent liability, study these 3 together. Accounts receivable, loans and advances, trade payables, and trade receivable, trade payable. Cash and cash equivalent का इतना क्वेश्चन नहीं आया है except for schedule 3. फिर इन्वेंट्री सेपरेटली पढ़ो. इन्वेंट्री में वैल्यूएशन ऑफ रॉ मटेरियल, वर्क इन प्रोग्रेस का बहुत क्वेश्चन आता है. बट देन यू हैव टू स्टडी दिस टुगेदर. Tangible, intangible assets, right? And then you study differently loans and borrowing, reserves and surplus, and the share capital. Is it wonderful? Right? What discussion we are having over here? Okay. And then in the sales, again you study sales, then immediately study purchases. Purchases पढ़ोगे तो वहाँ question दिखेगा. Analytical procedures regarding purchases while checking completeness and the measurement. Right? So it says the stock composition analysis, stock consumption analysis, then the ratio analysis, and the quantitative reconciliation. And 3 या 4 बार ये question आके गया. And then after that, you have the employee benefit expenses. You have to check the salary register, the salary, what you say, slip of the employees, employees who are hired during the year, fired during the year. Then PF, ESI, CARO 20, slot 7, employee benefit, then depreciation, amortization. And that what is the list of the asset, addition during the year, deletion during the year, from the date the asset is ready to use, revalued amount, income tax act, estimated useful life, analytical procedure. Then you have the other income, right, wherein you have your dividend income, the profit or loss on sale of investment in the mutual fund, and also the interest income. Then the other expenses, wherein we have the power and fuel expense, the rent expenditure, then the legal professional expenses, electricity expenses. So that comes under the other expenses. Right? Are you getting an idea? Every student who is watching this particular video, I think I should have done some value addition to you beyond what you have studied. Okay. Yes, are you getting a grip? Are you able to follow our line of discussions for this chapter? Right, items of the financial statements. Okay, right. So then, like, now once I've told you the content, certainly you can analyze and so. But right now, let me come to a few questions from the different types of entities. Wherein, let's say, first, let's talk about the cooperative society. So, cooperative society, again, you can look into the question bank, see what type of questions have come in the exam. But yeah, one of the important questions awaited to be asked over there, 5-star, is the special report to the registrar of cooperative society. Right, that auditor, when you are doing the audit of the cooperative society, you may notice some serious irregularity. What is serious irregularity? All the money of the cooperative society, you're putting it in your pocket. Right? So personal profiteering by the members of the managing committee. Obviously, if they are doing personal profiteering, that means they are doing fraud. If they are doing fraud, that means they are doing mismanagement. And if they are doing mismanagement, that means they are giving the reckless advances without doing the assessment of the credit worthiness of the fund. And so, it's all a very bad situation over there. Right? What is the bad situation over there? That one, पहले तो सारा पैसा पॉकेट में डाल दिया, फिर पैसा पॉकेट में डाल दिया मतलब फ्रॉड किया मतलब मिसमैनेजमेंट किया, मिसमैनेजमेंट किया मतलब अपना घर का बिजनेस समझ के जो लोन मांगने आए 5 करोड़ 10 करोड़ reckless advancing without doing the assessment of the credit worthiness of the party. Right? Without doing the assessment of the credit worthiness of the party. Right? So that is regarding the special report to the registrar of the cooperative society. Then contribution to the education fund, right? Then the contribution for charitable purposes, investment of funds, right? So where can a cooperative society invest its funds? That a cooperative society has 50 crore rupees with it, where it can invest it. Can it invest it in gold, real estate, mutual fund? No. It can invest it in the central or state cooperative bank, or it can invest in any other bank other than the central or state cooperative bank approved by the registrar, or it can invest in the share securities debentures of other society or the Indian Trust Act society, or any other monies as permitted by the central or the state government. Right? So these are the investments which can be done by a cooperative society. Right? What is the restriction on the shareholding? 20% of the total number of shares or shares of the value of rupees 1,000, whichever is less. Right? Whichever is less. Right? So that is the restriction on the shareholding. Then what are the books of account? Right? To be maintained by a cooperative society. Qualification of auditors. Chartered accountant, government diploma in cooperative account, or a person who served as an auditor in the cooperative department of the government, right? Or a person who served as an auditor in the cooperative department of the government. So cooperative society, right? Then you also have the government audit, right? Government audit, a very important question over there is regarding the propriety audit. And to find out the cases, right? So government audit, propriety, to find out the cases of the improper, avoidable, and the wasteful expenditure. And unnecessary expenditure being incurred, even though if the expenditure is incurred as per the rules and regulations. Simple line to explain propriety audit. If had it been your own money, would you have taken the same decision? If no, then that is wasteful expenditure. खुद पे पैसा खर्चना होता तो 200, गवर्नमेंट का पैसा खर्चना हो तो 20,000. So 19,800 is the unnecessary expenditure being incurred over there. Right? So you have to look into the wisdom, the faithfulness, and the economy of the transaction. How do you come to whether this expenditure was necessary or whether this expenditure was unnecessary? So for assessing that, we have certain principles of the financial propriety. P for principle, all the P points we have over there. That number one key point, that expenditure should not be prima facie more than what the occasion demands. Power should not be utilized to the advantage or disadvantage of any particular, or to own advantage. Then public money should not be utilized for the benefit of a particular community and so. And the allowances given should not be a source of profit to the recipient. Right? So these are the principles of the financial propriety. What are the principles of the financial propriety that we have? One, that the expenditure should not be prima facie more than what the occasion demands. Then the authority should not exercise power to its own advantage. Public money should not be utilized for the benefit of a particular audit. You have the efficiency, economy, and the effectiveness, also called as the full scope audit. Right? Also called as the full scope audit. Right? So that is our discussion, brief discussion regarding the government audit. Then you have the local body, and this is like a super favorite question: objectives of the audit of the local body. And a favorite question of ICAR. Objectives of the audit of the local bodies. Right? We have the objectives of the audit of the local bodies, right? So what is the objective of the audit of the local body? We have 5 points over there, 5F. And 5F. What is first F? That as an auditor, here one of the main objective of the audit is to report on the fairness of the content and presentation of the financial statement. Then strengths and weaknesses of the system of the financial control. Then whether the local body adhere matlab kya? Follows the legal administrative requirement. Then whether value is being fully received on the money spent, and detection of fraud, error, and the misuse of the resources. Right? So again, you need to learn this by heart. Okay, what are the objectives of the audit of the local body? Reporting on the fairness of the content and presentation of financial statements, strengths and weaknesses of the system of financial control, follow the legal administrative requirement, value is being fully received for the money spent, and the detection of fraud, error, and the misuse of the resources. What are these? These are the 5 objectives of the audit of the local bodies. Right? These are the 5 objectives of the audit of the local body. Right? 5F over there. Right? You see the past exam question. You'll see so regularly they've asked the questions regarding the objectives of the audit of the local body. Right. Then after that, as compared to the old syllabus of Inter, in the new syllabus of Inter, they have added this topic over there: audit of trusts and society. Right? Audit of the trusts and societies. So relatively, we can mark this as NEW. Right? That is new. Right? So one, you need to check the legal form. Right? So what does it say? One, this particular trust or society, it could be in the form of a trust, society, Section 8 company, Income Tax Act, and the FCRA. right? So that is one answer you need to learn. It could be trust, society, Section 8 company, income tax rules, and the FCRA in case of foreign contributions are received. Right? Then what are the books of account to be maintained by the trust and the society? Financial statement, auditor's responsibility, then the working paper. And then we talk about the audit of the trust and the audit of the society. Again, right? So you mark it as 5-star audit of, okay, cooperative society is different. This is just society. Right? So audit of trust, audit of society. Again, in the society, it says you have to study the legislation, the object of the society. Right? Then we said if it is receiving the foreign contribution, then the FCRA also registered under the Income Tax Act. So legislation, object, FCRA, Income Tax Act. Then you need to study the internal control system, accounting system. Then you need to check the expenses which have been reimbursed by the donors, inquiry held by the register. So one, you need to check the income, then any improper expenditure and any breach of trust, right? Improper expenditure and the breach of trust. So again, if you want to know the important question, yeah, this is one of the important questions that you have. Why? Because it's relatively new. Right? So legislation, object. Then after that, FCRA, Income Tax Act. Internal control system, accounting policy, right? Internal control system and the accounting policy. So 222. Then after that, the receipts and the inquiry, and then improper expenditure and breach of trust, right? Improper expenditure and the breach of the trust, right? So that is regarding the audit of the society. Then after that, we also have the audit of the trust. Right now, in the audit of the trust, they have the accounts, right? Then the receipts and disbursement, right? Then after that, the donation, cash balance, books deed, register of movable, immovable property, manager or trustee or any other person required by the auditor to appear before him and furnish the information. So if auditor requires any person to appear before him, then the property or the funds of the trust have been applied towards the object of the trust. Then amount outstanding for more than 1 year, the amount is written off. So again, this is a candidate for MCQ. Then the invested money in contravention to the provisions of the Act. Improper expenditure. So improper investment, improper expenditure. Then it says the minimum and maximum number of trustees. Then in trustees ka meeting. Per meeting ka minutes book. Then the trustees, if they have any interest, then whether the trustee is a debtor or a creditor. Right? So trustee has any interest, then whether trustee is a debtor or a creditor. Then after that, any anonymous donations without mentioning the name, donations in cash. Then after that, the irregularities and any special matter. Right? Then any special matter. So I think they've given some 17, 20 points over there. Even if I remember 5, 6, I think apni nahi to paar lag jayegi. Our job will be sorted over there. But the fact is, unless and until I hold your hand and I take you through the content over here, on your own, it looks too intimidating. And I have to read this. But obviously, you've opted for CA. That means you are an intelligent human being. So now you say, ma'am, not bad. I can't remember, the number of trustees, 7 trustees come meeting, unka minutes book. Wonderful. Trustee has any interest, debtor, creditor. Then any donations, any irregularities, any special matter. Right? And then FCRA, Income Tax Act, right? Your receipts, disbursement, investments, the property of the trustee. Okay. Right. So again, this is the NEW, Audit of the Trust and Society. Right. So that is a point number 11. Suggest to me regarding what is your thought about the book from which we are learning? Like, it's how many pages of the book that we have over here, right? So this particular book, right? It's a 442 pages book. And you've seen after each point has been taken in Vistar, even the important words have been highlighted in the red color. And then at the end of every chapter, a huge, humongous, what they say, question bank is incorporated over there. And that too in a very systematic and organized manner, where all questions of sole trader, partnership, LLP, Uske baad all questions regarding educational institution. Then regarding the hospital, how many times asked in exams, how many times in RTP. Right, so hospital, then club, then cinema hall, amusement park. Then after cinema hall, amusement park, hotel, room sales, audit of hotel, internal control, inventory, travel agent shop. Then leasing company, hire purchase finance company, NGO, one, two, three, four, five, six questions regarding NGO, charitable institution, one, two, three, four questions. Local body, one, two, three, four, five, six. You see so many times, you know, one, two, three, four, five, six, seven. And a 7 times question has been asked in exam regarding objectives of audit of local body. What I told you as the 5F over there. You know, objectives of audit of local body. Then part B of the chapter, government audit. And a government audit, again, you see, and a propriety audit, again, asked so many times in the exam, right? Propriety performance. So 18 questions from government audit. ना तो इधर उधर पढ़ने का इधर उधर कुछ तुम ये बुक ही 3 बार पढ़ लो मोर देन इनफ राइट देन यू हैव कोऑपरेटिव सोसाइटी का अब तक जितना क्वेश्चंस आया है 10 क्वेश्चन एमसीपी आरटीपी स्टडी मटेरियल all that given over there right then your test your understanding questions given at the end ye sara takes care of your theory we also have an MCQ book where is the MCQ book Inter. Yes, you have the MCQ book over there, right? That is again running into, 228 pages. Again, all the dunya bhar ka MCQs of the MTP, RTP, suggested institute study material, all have been incorporated over here. Right? All the MCQs for all the different chapters. Right? So not that I'm trying to convince you for anything, but I'm at least trying to present the facts in front of you. Like, what type of content is available, obviously, since I'm teaching the subject since 2009 and in the year that we are today, obviously, I've seen the subject evolve over a period of time. So obviously, if I can teach you a 560, 505, on a direct basis, giving you the crux of the essay, it would be just coming from the experience for which I want you to have the maximum benefit of. Right, so chapter 3, MCQ compiler available in soft copy? No. So you'll have to go to Aarti, Lahoti or magnetca.com and order, or any other vendors also, franchisees also. You need to order it from them. But on Telegram, as I told you yesterday also, my team just mentioned to me that, ma'am, we've uploaded 94 MCQs in the last few days. You just go to the Aarti Lahoti Telegram channel. And again, a lot of MCQs have been put over there for your practice purpose. And you are my brand ambassadors who are going to make things viral. So it's like a two-way. Like my responsibility is to make you clear the exam. And your kindness would be if you could make me go viral. You say, ma'am, you are not what you were before. But what they do is the changing times, ma'am. Yeah. There's what different thought. There's a lot of MCQ. Yeah. So you saw they just updated me yesterday evening that, ma'am, we've uploaded 94 MCQs over there. Because I've told them that, put as many MCQs that you can. Right? So that's how it is been, right? So you're asking, ma'am, chapter 3, crux and 5-star question. Why not? Your wish is my command. So let's go. Let's go to the chapter number 3. So, regular class for audit goes around 100 to 120 hours at CA Inter, in which, we just rock the entire subject right from building your concepts and so. Okay. Right. So that's our discussion. Yes, our brief analysis of the, let's do a brief analysis of the chapter number 3, which is regarding the risk assessment and the internal control. Right. So risk assessment, wherein we talk about the three standards, SA 315, SA 330, and the SA 450. Yes, so RRR. What is the RRR? It is the risk, the response, and the reporting. Right? So you identify the RMM. For that, you perform the risk assessment procedure. Then you respond to the RMM. For that, you perform the further audit procedure. और जो भी ऑडिट में फ्रॉड एरर मिला है, you do the evaluation of that. So that is called as evaluation of the misstatements identified during the audit. Right? So audit risk, right? Wherein we say what is audit risk? What is audit? Expression of opinion. और क्या रिस्क है कि भाई मेरा जो गलत हो सकता है ना, मुझे लगता है कि ऑडिट बड़ा ही इजी सब्जेक्ट है, तुम बोलते मैम आपका ओपिनियन सीरियसली गलत है, ठीक है, तुम्हें लगता है तो मैं क्या ही करूं, बट या दैट इज ऑडिट रिस्क कि जो ओपिनियन है वो शायद गलत है। तो तुम्हारा जो ओपिनियन है कि ऑडिट बड़ा ही बोल्ड सब्जेक्ट है, मैं बोल रही हूँ तुम्हारा ओपिनियन गलत ही है, तुमने सब्जेक्ट का क्या बोलते हैं लुत्फ नहीं उठाया है, तो इसीलिए ऐसी बातें कर रहे हैं कि okay, anyways, right? So audit risk. Then the risk that the auditor expresses an inappropriate audit opinion, galat bol raha hai, when the financial statements are materially misstated. And it says audit risk is the function of the risk of material misstatement and the detection risk. Risk that the financial statements may be materially misstated prior to audit. An auditor may not detect a misstatement that exists, that is detection risk. Right? RMM, risk of material misstatement, could be at financial statement level or assertion level, A, B, C, D. And account balance, classes of transaction, presentation, disclosure. And further, it could be inherent risk for the control risk. Inherent, which is there by default, and control risk, which is there because of a weakness, deficiency in the internal controls in the organization. And so RMM we assess and detection risk we manage, detection risk we cover. Right? So detection risk, right? So audit risk. And under detection risk, you have sampling and non-sampling. If my conclusion goes wrong due to sample, it is sampling risk. Any reason other than sample, then that is called as the non-sampling risk. Okay. Right? Then we have the risk assessment procedures, KOC, and the knowledge of the client's business, understanding the entity and its environment. Right? Then we talk about when do you say that this is not a guest, this is the chief guest of my audit. This is not a risk, this is a significant risk in the audit. When you think कि शायद कंपनी फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट्स में फ्रॉड है, शायद जो रिलेटेड पार्टी के साथ के ट्रांजैक्शन है उसमें बहुत ज्यादा रिस्क है, या तो जो ट्रांजैक्शन है वो बड़े ही कॉम्प्लेक्स है, बड़े ही अनयूजुअल है, या तो there is a lot of change in the regulatory environment, or there is the measurement uncertainty risk for the calculation of the estimate. Right? So this is when an RMM becomes an SR. So you are not a guest, you are a chief guest of the audit. है ना? Why? क्योंकि मुझे लगता है फ्रॉड हुआ है, मुझे लगता है रिलेटेड पार्टी में घपला है, मुझे लगता है इनके ट्रांजैक्शन बड़े ही कॉम्प्लेक्स है, बड़े ही अनयूजुअल है, बहुत ही लॉ रेगुलेशन में चेंज हो गया है, या बहुत ही मेजरमेंट अनसर्टेनिटी है प्रोविजन कैलकुलेशन. Right? So that is when an RMM becomes an SR. Right? Then whatever risk you identify, you document, then you do the TOC and a test of role, wherein you further audit procedure, you check the design, implementation, and the maintenance of the control. Right? So we talk about nature, timing, and extent of the TOC, substantive procedure, test of detail, and substantive analytical. So yesterday I had already discussed with you the audit procedure chart. And audit procedure, risk assessment procedure, further audit procedure, TOC, and substantive. Substantive, you have test of detail, and substantive analytical procedure. Right? So that is the risk assessment procedure and the further audit procedure. Right? Then you also have materiality, any item or information which might influence the decision making of the users. Right? So it says determination of materiality is a matter of the professional judgment. Use of benchmark. Right? So What are the factors affecting the identification of an appropriate benchmark? Venus. कि जो भी benchmark, whatever representative you're taking, you have to check that it's not very volatile. What are the elements of the financial information? What is the nature of the entity? What are the needs of the users and the structure of the entity? Right? So what are the factors affecting the identification of an appropriate benchmark? And second part you have is the internal control. What is the definition of internal control? It says it is the policies and procedures which have been designed, implemented, and maintained by management, PCWG, and others within the organization to provide a reasonable assurance about RESC. Q internal control, one in order to ensure कि जो भी accounting है that is reliable. फिर smooth conduct of the operation, efficiency and the effectiveness of the conduct of the operations. फिर जो भी कंपनी के एसेट्स है उनको बचाना है चोरों से, है ना, आजकल तो ऑनलाइन भी होते हैं चोर, है ना, सेफ गार्डिंग ऑफ द एसेट. और जो भी काम करना है, अगर लाइफ में कुछ बड़ा करना है तो यू हैव टू कंप्लाई विद द laws and regulations. So compliance with the applicable laws and regulation. So what is internal control? It is the policies and procedures. किसने बनाई है? Management, PCWG, others. क्यों बनाई है? क्योंकि वो चाहते हैं कि कंपनी का जो भी अकाउंटिंग है वो कैसा होना चाहिए? रिलायबल. कंपनी के ऑपरेशन कैसे होने चाहिए? एफिशिएंट, इफेक्टिव. जो भी कंपनी की इन्वेंट्री है, कैश है, फिक्स्ड एसेट्स है, वो बचे हुए रहने चाहिए, सेफ गार्डेड, एंड दे शुड डू देयर वर्क इन कंप्लायंस विद डायरेक्ट इनडायरेक्ट टैक्स लॉज एंड सो compliance with the applicable laws and regulations. So you see it over here, RESC, है ना, RESC, है ना, कि these are the entity objectives which are to be achieved from the internal control. Right? Then another 5-star question which you can study over there, which comes quite regularly in the exam, is the inherent limitations of the internal control. कि एक तो या तो people are over smart or they are dumb. If they are over smart, what they will do? They will do the collusion. There will be the judgment by the management, override of control. Or if they are dumb, they don't understand कि ये control क्यों design है. Then there is also the human judgment. This छोटे company में you can't have the proper segregation of duty. Right? So that is regarding the inherent limitations of internal control. What are the components, parts of internal control? CRISM, and a control environment, risk assessment, information system and communication, control activity, and the monitoring. Okay, right. So time says that we are done for our discussion for the third day of our revisionary session for the Inter Audit. For all forthcoming attempts, why only Jan, but I think for the rest of 25 and also for 25, right, that this particular revisionary series would be relevant. So thank you so much for having a patient listening to the content, and I hope that it is beneficial for all of you. Wishing you all the very best for your upcoming exams, and looking forward to see you at CA final. Till then, bye-bye and study well. Bye-bye.